And we are live on the live roundtable here on hashtag Jeopardy Live panel, presented by the JeopardyFan.com. Once again, I am Andy Saunders, and we've got a slightly smaller panel this evening, but we've still got a panel, and we'll have some great discussion nonetheless. If you've got any sort of questions or comments, we have the YouTube chat. If there's something in there, that's fine. Also, you can use the hashtag Jeopardy Live panel on Twitter, and that will, I keep an eye on that throughout the panel as well. Our panel this evening returning for the second consecutive panel, 12-time champion. Congratulations, Seth Wilson.
Thanks. It's nice to be here.
I was going to ask what's on your hat.
And also,
Jeopardy hat, but sorry.
Oh, he's got the Cubs hat going. And Margie Eulner Ott, you beat Seth last Wednesday. Congratulations on that victory.
Thanks. Yeah, I got lucky.
So basically, once again, if you've got any questions or comments, just use the hashtag Jeopardy panel, and I will read those out. So first up, I guess the biggest news from last week was obviously the game you two were both a part of on Wednesday when Final Jeopardy happened, and well, you know, Margie won and Seth did not. So I guess what everyone kind of wants to know, I guess, if you guys want to talk through your respective Final Jeopardy bets against each other, and that's probably the best spot to start.
Sure, Margie. Do you want to go first? If you want to.
Well, I mean, I just remember the economy coming up and thinking, okay, I just spent a year helping my son study for AP Economics. And I thought, I'll go for it. But also in my Jeopardy preparation, I hadn't really studied wagering or how to wager, which you can probably tell by my game because I just either bet to tie or I bet it all because I thought, well, why just bet to win, because I'll come in third place if I don't get it, and you only go home with 1,000 for that, so I might as well bet it all.
And then, so yes, you know, it obviously worked out for you because Seth just bet the $5. So, did you want to talk us through that one?
Yeah. The biggest thing was I wasn't sure I was going to know it. The economy and business. I had gone on business or business-related final questions the week before. I had gone 1 for 2 on Final Jeopardy. I got the one about IKEA, but I missed a question about the Nike symbol. So I wasn't. And I feel like it's a category that I'm frequently, when watching the show or studying material, I'm frequently thrown off by something in a business clue. So I wasn't really super confident. And I also had won my 5th game by betting 0 on thinking that nobody would know it, and it worked for me. So I had a little bit of experience that was telling me that might be a successful strategy. And then in 2 of the previous games, the one that we discussed the last time I was on the panel, Miranda didn't wager enough to overtake me. And in a game from that Thursday, I also, the trailing player didn't bet enough to overtake me, even without me getting the question right. So I had thought, I wasn't sure what she was going to do, but I thought she might only wager 2001. to overtake me by $1 in hopes of me missing it, or me betting big and missing it. So I played it a little too safe. I was playing not to lose. And to Margie's credit, she made a very bold play and was able to overtake me.
So, yeah, so I mean, yes, as Seth just said, all props to to you there, Margie, on the bold play there in Final Jeopardy. Now, obviously, you're defending your title, coming up against Sarah, who kind of really jumped out of the blocks on Thursday. She really looked like she came to play. Now, obviously, you guys had spent some rehearsal time with her, so did that performance out of her surprise you at all? Either of you?
I would say not necessarily. I would say I guess there are like 17 people there, Seth, if I'm not mistaken, with the alternates.
Yeah.
And I was probably the third oldest one. And we older contestants were having a lot more trouble with the buzzer signaling.
That
No,
I mean, I would say the numbers.
It's a big thing in the game with Sarah, but it was also an issue in my game with Seth for me.
Well, I was about to say the numbers actually do bear out your empirical evidence there. I mean, your own in first on the buzzer percentages were under 30%, Margie. So that makes so I mean, from that perspective, you're dead right that yes, it can be a struggle on the buzzer. And I mean, Seth was over 40, so
Right.
obviously, I mean,
in my game he was over 50.
Not quite. Looking at my numbers here, it was not quite 50%, but almost 50%. So
Yeah.
he definitely had an advantage. Whether that was because he'd already played 12 games, or for as you said, you were mentioning that the older players were struggling on the buzzer.
Yes.
So I mean that from that perspective. So what did you find? When you were able to get in, was it because you were feeling maybe you were the only one trying to bring in, or was there a?
I think that there was a combination.
Just that.
So some of them that I got in, I might have been either it was my category and I was more confident, and others were hesitating. But I also found myself, and this is not a good strategy, just actually trying to ring in so that I could ring in, even kind of not even considering do I know the answer, but hoping I would have the opportunity to give an answer and figured it out by that time. So.
Well, I mean, there were some negs that you took. I mean, and also that can be. I would say you're not the first one to have that experience either. You guys listening and tonight won't have heard this, but I know Terry Kent. I spoke to him in the first segment on the podcast. He briefly mentioned that he had a very similar experience when he was on the Jeopardy back in 2012 before his sports Jeopardy run. That again he had a couple of times where he was basically ringing in, and maybe shouldn't have, because of that difficulty there.
Yeah, and my son was very upset with me because he had been my coach, and he was like, "Don't guess, don't guess." So there were a couple of times there where I guessed, and I guessed wrong.
Obviously, you then losing to Sarah on Thursday put up a $5,200 True Daily Double, which did not work out. I know I saw there was some shade on various parts of the internet on not be on people playing from their couch, claiming to have had an easier time on that daily double. But so if you want to talk, yes.
The thing is that when the clue's revealed and you're reading it, and this happened to me twice, once with that clue and then the day before with the flowers in books category, when the answer was supposed to be Amsterdam. I didn't see the word city. Like I kept, you can actually, if you rewatch it, you can see me just rereading the clue, trying to pick out the word that was supposed to trigger the answer for me, because I knew that topic, and I would have known Amsterdam if the word city had come out at me, but it didn't. And it was a similar thing with the Tiffany thing, although it might be a little closer to, you're thinking Athena, Parthenon, and you go down a wrong track, like we were talking about earlier, is it was a diamond category. It was, a PR thing of a Hollywood person, and I started going, diamonds, Hollywood people. Marilyn Monroe, diamonds are a girl's best friend, no, 61's too late. Who got a big diamond in 60 around then? Elizabeth Taylor was with Elizabeth Taylor. And I didn't see the word Tiffany. I mean, like, I was shocked after it. I'm like, wait, the word Tiffany was up there? Because I, of course, know Breakfast at Tiffany's, 1961. So it's just, if you skip over the word, and I mean, that's something that they talk about in contestant auditions and things, is to really, focus on the category that you're in. So I got one wrong, because the category was trans, and I didn't answer with, I can't even remember what that one was, but
it was $1,000.
So I'll also say that this is another thing that they should put in the Jeopardy orientation, and I feel like I'm like taking all the air, Seth, so I'm sorry. You can. No. I'm gonna shut up after this, but I had like a quick turnaround from a prior trip to get ready to go out to LA for the taping, and I forgot my pillbox, and I have ADD. And I had a written prescription in my wallet, but they won't fill an out-of-state prescription in California for that type of medication. So I found myself in the aisles of a Rite Aid looking for any kind of like focus brain booster supplement to try to deal with that. So I think a little bit of my gameplay was probably a little off for that, but I'm not going to blame it on it. A lot of it's just luck. Is it a good category day for you? Do you hit the daily doubles? And skill with the buzzer. Do you get the hang of it? Do you get that rhythm? And I never really got that rhythm. But I did have the luck.
Of course,
the daily doubles in my first game.
Yes, and I mean, as I was about to say, that can be, sometimes that buzzer rhythm can be overcome, and you obviously showed that, to the tune of about $35,000 if you include your third place prize on Thursday. So, sidestepping Jeopardy a bit. We've got, at least, well, I mean, it has to do with Jeopardy, but something happened today. I noticed a lot of people on Twitter were talking about this, and also on the show's Facebook page. Apparently, they sent out an email to everyone who wrote the who took the online test last week, with the subject line "Congratulations." And in the email was, "Congratulations, you took the online test. We'll let you know if you've passed and you get an audition." And there seemed to be a lot of people who seemed to be rather upset at the fact that, congratulations, they thought they were getting an audition, only to open the email and kind of get to have that surprise. So I my question for you guys, and also for anyone listening in on the broadcast at the moment, either the YouTube chat or on the hashtag Jeopardy Live panel on Twitter, on on almost a temperature scale of kind of 0 to 100, how cold was that?
0. Actually, I saw that my sister took the online test, and she sent it to me because apparently my picture was in the email as well. There was a little in the lower right-hand corner. It was like a thing about the Who is Seth Wilson feature. So I saw that, and she sent it to me, and I was like, oh, she got an audition. That's cool. And then I looked at it, and it was like, no, congratulations for taking the test. And I thought, wow, that's really, really misleading.
Yeah, there were a lot of people who I think felt the same. I think Margie just had some technical issues. She'll be back in a second. But if you're listening to us and have your own thoughts on that, please tweet at us. I'm curious to hear some other opinions, because I think both of us kind of thought, misleading to cold. Okay, Margie has come back.
Sorry, I got knocked off again.
That's okay. So yeah, I'm not sure how much of the question you heard or how much of the story you heard. But once again, Jeopardy sent out an email to everyone who took the online test last week. Basically, the subject line was congratulations. Basically, congratulations, you took the test, as opposed to congratulations, you have an audition. So there were some people who were misleading stuff, or misleading things. And, oh, interesting. Okay, so we've got a response from Jay Johnson. I think he might have taken it for fun. I'm not sure, but he said, hey, I got one of those. Not that cold. Okay, but so basically my question was kind of that whole email, how cold was it? So if you have an opinion on that, if you don't, that's okay too.
I didn't see it, so I think an acknowledgement that you took, if it's just an acknowledgement, yes, you took the test, we have your test.
I mean,
a problem.
I think that's what they were going for. I just think there were a lot of people who read it as, if Jeopardy is sending you an email that has congratulations, then maybe I think a lot of the people read it to mean I'm getting an audition.
Well, I think it's not as bad as some of those colleges that accidentally admitted people and then had to take it back by email.
Yes, that's I've heard of those. Strangely enough, I got one of those from a university like 3 days before start of term, being like, one of those like, oh, we've admitted you, and I'm like, really? I don't recall being admitted to this university. And it was like 3 days before start of term, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to ignore this. And then, a couple days later, there was like an apology email that went out, and I'm not going to bother naming the school, but it's located in I will just say, for those of you who know me, it's located in a city that I enjoy very much, and it is not a bilingual school. So I'm sure those of you who know me will be able to piece that together. Okay, so my next question is actually for Seth. What past Jeopardy champion do you think you're most like, or at least your run is most similar to?
I heard that someone had compared my style of play to Julia Collins, which I know. I mean, that's incredibly flattering to be compared to someone who was so successful. but she played. I
Well,
tended to
you
play.
know,
Go ahead.
I was about to say, don't sell yourself short. You won 12 games. That's fifth all time. You're reasonably successful yourself.
Yeah, certainly. You know, I played a fairly conservative and traditional game. You know, I didn't do the forced bounce as much, much to my chagrin, ultimately, because I didn't find that last daily double in the game that I played with Margie. Wish that I had been more proactive in looking for them in retrospect. But yeah, I think Julia Collins was sort of my Jeopardy style icon in that way. So that's the person whose style I feel like I was trying to emulate the most.
Now, would you, as someone who played against him, Margie, would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I really feel that there's the extreme of Ken Jennings, that the buzzer does have a lot to do with it, because all of us are only there because we passed the test. And
right.
they don't tell you what you need to get, but I've surmised, having gone through the testing at least 10 times in in-person audition, that was my 6th time, that you have to get at least 45 out of the 50 rate. So that's 90, knowing 90% of
I would say it's, from my experience, it's probably a lot less than that.
Really?
Even maybe as low as 35. I've heard that have received auditions and or passed in the past. So
okay, well that's good to clarify for any of your listeners.
Well, obviously the show doesn't specifically specify its passing score, but I've always worked on the assumption it's 35.
But I would say that I felt like that there was a rhythm of the game, that we picked a category and we kind of tried to clear it, unless that really wasn't your category, and then maybe there were 2 categories operating, but pretty much, from the top to from the lowest value to the highest value, kind of very traditional style of play. I think that, some say that other style of play, could also shake people up. You don't get to build into the category. Sometimes I find with myself that, like, I can get the first clue wrong, even if it's not the most difficult, because I haven't fully digested what the category is yet. You know what I mean? But building on it lets you realize, okay, no, every question has to have trans in it, for instance, or whatever the category is driving you towards. So I think like a bounce around game could put your competition to a disadvantage if you are good at that style of play. It would be unsettling. So I'm glad that Seth didn't play that way, because I was unsettled enough about not being able to ring in. And people don't necessarily realize that. Like, my family was like, well, you weren't doing this thing like I always see people on TV do. And so I wasn't kind of demonstrative about my buzzer frustration. And I think, actually Alex Trebek said something, between the games, he takes questions from the audience, and someone asked, well, Alex, how do you think that you would do? Would you win a game of Jeopardy? Would you be the champion? And he's like, oh no, I can't I can't buzz in or, you know, retrieve the answer in the 3 seconds like these people can. So I'm actually going to start promoting that they bring back the senior tournament for all of us slow reflex people.
I think, to be honest, I think that a lot of their I guess my thought is the lack of a seniors tournament now is probably out of respect to target viewer demographics than anything else. But
Your demographic is all seniors. The people that I'm the most famous with are the sisters at Little Flower Parish who are all over the age of 60, and I also volunteer for the Aging in Place Village in my neighborhood, and basically, like, I'm a rock star to those people. Everybody else is sort of like, oh, I didn't see your episode. I don't own a TV. Can you stream it? And I have to tell them, no, Sony doesn't allow Jeopardy to be streamed.
There's a well, I mean, if you're lucky enough to have a local affiliate that will stream it, you know, somehow locally, but you know, there's VPN issues and things, or I should say, there's not those issues, I should say, but like, you know, I guess geo-blocking issues and that's a big, massive kettle of worms to get into. Basically, you need to, if you're in Canada, you're lucky because once one network here has national rights, which means all they have to do is geo-block their live stream to Canada, which is possible to do. And in Canada, you can actually watch that network streamed live when Jeopardy's on. So from that perspective, we're you know, Canadians are more fortunate than Americans are. But oh, another thing before I get to the gauntlet of the usual Jeopardy live panel questions, you mentioned Uber and Lyft on air on Thursday. Did you get any flack off there for that, like from contestant coordinators?
They actually were going to say, oh, and you're an Uber driver, and I said, well, you know, that's actually a brand. Do you want to say rideshare? So they actually changed it for the intro. And then, yeah, in explaining it to Alex, what does that mean, then I did use the brand names, and then I got a phone call from Uber headquarters congratulating me after that.
Yeah, I guess they could enjoy.
But I did mention both of them, so I thought that was fair.
Because my first instinct was, oh, it was a brand that just got mentioned. Uh-oh, somebody's going to get in trouble somewhere. But
I think it's because I gave them equal time.
So,
but maybe Sidecar could get upset now.
You know, to be honest, I think a lot of it depends on where you are as to how controversial these apps are. There was a big protest in Montreal last week, in fact, over the ride-sharing things. The taxi drivers all protested one day, and you know, it's really a matter of what location you're in as to how everything's kind of treated. My next question, I think I pretty much have this answer from Seth already from last time, but I'm going to ask you, Margie, what did you have for lunch in the Sony commissary?
Oh, well, I think that was part of my problem, too, because we had lunch between mine and Seth's game and then the game I played with Sarah and Randy.
Yep.
And I had the Reuben. And I think it was maybe a heavier thing that I probably should have had a salad.
Yeah, I think that at least from my experience, the Reuben has not been a popular choice. For going back in my head through the various responses to that question I've received, nor a lot of salads, I guess. Interesting to hear, though, that okay, I had the Reuben, and maybe it didn't work out. So, if you're still, if you're listening to this, looking for tips on what to get, maybe not the Reuben.
Maybe not the Reuben. And remember your meds.
Not a chance to. Yes, remember your meds. Also very important. Did you have a chance to do anything else besides Tape Jeopardy when you were in Culver City?
Is this for me or Seth?
Both of you.
I'll let Seth go first because I feel like I've been talking.
I think Seth kind of mentioned this a bit last time, so maybe if he wants to repeat his answer in case we have any different viewers this time.
Yeah, I was there. I actually stayed because my first 5 episodes were on a Wednesday, so I stayed over the weekend because I'd been planning to be there for a while. I was doing some stuff at the Huntington Library. So I went back to the Huntington. I saw Pasadena and some stuff around that. I went to took the tour of the Warner Brothers studio lot, and they let you hold an Oscar if you do that. So that was very exciting. And let's see what else. Saw the Walk of Fame and saw the Star Trek Beyond at the Grauman's Chinese Theater, which I think now is called like TCL Chinese Theater. But kind of some of the highlights of Hollywood and LA, Venice Beach. So it hit some of the high spots. Although I feel like I should go back. I didn't really get the full experience.
Well, I'm thinking you'll probably get that opportunity when you go back to tape the Tournament of Champions.
Yeah.
Now, what about you, Margie?
I was there for 3 days. And my son came with me. He's a freshman in college, and he had been coaching me. So we flew out. My tape day was Wednesday. We flew out, got there late Monday night. So on Tuesday, we kind of drove the beach towns from Redondo Beach up to Venice Beach. So we were sitting at an outdoor cafe watching kind of all the crazy people in Venice Beach, and he was on his phone. He had the J Archive and just kept running me through games. I had a friend come join the studio audience who lived down in San Diego, so then we went and picked her up at her train, relaxed by the pool, did the tape day on Wednesday, and then following that, we went to the La Brea Tar Pits because I had always wanted to go since watching the Flintstones as a kid. And then we did the Walk of Fame.
So how was that?
What's the La Brea Tar Pits?
No, I was asking how it was. I'm familiar with what they are.
Okay.
I'm just asking how was it?
It was actually very cool because it's really right in the middle of downtown LA, right off of, I think, Ventura Boulevard. And it's right next to the LA County Art Museum. But then there's these bubbling pits of tar, and it smells like, hot asphalt, like, it smells when they're fixing the road on the highway or whatever. It's interesting to see how the fossil record got created there because, basically a large herbivore would get stuck in the tar, like a woolly mammoth baby, and then all the predators would come at it, and kind of there'd be this colossal fossil record that had all these predators and one herbivore, and it's kind of like the inverse of what you usually find in the fossil record. So that was interesting. Lots of dire wool.
That is very interesting. So, you're the first person that's come on here and who's been to the tar pits. So that's another good fun thing to do in Los Angeles. My next question, I feel as though I'm pretty sure I asked Seth this, and he's also pretty sure you've also mentioned your answer to this question a couple of times, once or twice on the various Jeopardy site interviews as well. So you can take. I don't need you to answer it again, Seth, but I'll ask you, Margie. Everyone kind of seems to have that moment where they fall in love with Jeopardy. So I asked, kind of, what was that moment for you when you kind of fell in love with Jeopardy? I mean, you've mentioned that you've tried out, you've had 6 auditions, so obviously you've been a fan and have been trying for a long time.
Yeah.
So kind of, what was that falling in love moment?
I've always watched game shows, like even as a little kid. So, like, Summer Vacation was great for me because daytime TV was full of game shows. Or, like, we'd rush home from school to watch Match Game 75 or whatever. And when I met my husband, we both realized that we were kind of trivia hounds, although he much more than I. And when this version of Jeopardy premiered in '84, we would tape it all week, and then we would have friends over on Fridays, and we would have Jeopathons. And, sit around like everybody does now, shouting out the answers at the TV. And, Merv Griffin owned the show then, and he had a casino in Atlantic City, and they used to have tryouts there. And we had family that lived in South Jersey, so we would take the casino bus, go take the test, keep the quarters that they gave you for the bus to put in the slots, kept it for our laundry. So it was just something that we did together. So I guess it just stems from that. We always played Trivial Pursuit. We always used to quiz each other, just in the car on long car rides. And that was our idea of fun.
Hey, it's a good idea of fun. Nothing wrong with that. And so I don't normally ask this question, but do you have any idea as to what might have clicked with this audition and not any of the first 5 you took? Because you mentioned this was, again, your 6th time.
Well, when I arrived at this audition, I said, "Hi, Maggie. It's so good to see you again. I'm Margie. This is my 6th time." And I think she said something like, "Oh, it took," she has all these, champion facts at the ready, so I think she said something like, "Oh, it took Brad Rutter 7 times to, to get on." And, I mean, I think I felt more relaxed and playful and fun in myself at this audition than any of the prior, because I had been there so many times. It felt like I was seeing old friends again. So I wasn't as nervous. My first audition, I remember when they ask you basically the contestant questions like Alex does after the first commercial, and that's part of the audition. And
yep.
I remember my first in-person audition, Maggie said, "Oh, what do you do if you're going to win money?" And I said, "Well, I've always wanted to go to Antarctica, and see penguins." And she's like, "Oh, did you see March of the Penguins?" And I said, "No." Well, that's definitely an interview killer. So I learned from that first one, don't say no. Whatever you do, don't say no. This time, because I had been driving for Uber for a few months, I had a good Uber story, like an only in DC Uber story that I did at that segment, and I think that that was also part of it. So, and I think it was just maybe they haven't had any rideshare driver contestant yet, so there was a novelty to that. Because I got called pretty quickly. I mean, Seth, you were like the first week of the new season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was just the second week of taping for the new season.
So, yeah, I mean, it's quite possible that, yes, by the novelty of the rideshare driver, plus, it sounded like you yourself thought the interview went much better this time. So, yeah, for all intent, for everyone who's out there, thinking, well, maybe I won't, maybe I should stop trying. That definitely keep trying. And I mean, I've had you on 6 times. Lori McDougall, I think, was up for somewhere around 8 to 10 auditions before she got on last season. So I mean, it will happen eventually. I'm just gonna mention some comments on the hashtag. Jay Johnson was yeah, hey, I got one of those, not that cool. And then but then again, with no expectation from it that way, probably slightly less invested. And also, I'm a lawyer. I'm always looking for the small print before getting too worked up. Also, on the YouTube chat from Todd, first of all, it's hard to beat a good Reuben. And also, if I had toured the WB lot, I would have been looking for the Animaniacs near the water tower. And I have to say that I would be in favor of doing that. So, Margie, you mentioned that you've been watching for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
In the few weeks that have aired since you've taped, how different is it watching now that you've actually been a contestant at taped and seen, gone behind the scenes and done all that? How different is it watching?
I think I'm a little more in the past I might have said, oh, come on, I can't believe that they didn't get that. But now I know kind of like how, just being up there, just, it could be something that but the conditions of just being there and taping Jeopardy, makes things go out of your head. Or, but I would say that I was always a watcher of just, I want to see how many answers I know, and I still watch that way. Yeah. I think the thing that's different for me now is more the like the contestant community and kind of, I guess, having more contact with people outside of my normal circle that are really big Jeopardy fans, and kind of even seeing how they watch. Like somebody tweeted me, it's like it's not the final wager, because that's the wagering thing, but there's someone on Twitter who tries to guess the answer to Final Jeopardy.
Oh,
when it's just
Jeopardy,
the category.
Yes, Jeopardy blind guesser, yes.
Right. So my husband used to do that, and it was like, how did you do that? And so the fact that there are people that do that every night, like somewhere else, and are tweeting about it, I found very, it's like, yeah. I found my people.
And again, that's very much a common refrain amongst various contestants, is that you finally found your people, and That is one of the great things about. Actually, it's funny because in my own audition, Glenn, because obviously I've been doing this, Glenn actually brought up, the fact that when you audition for the show, they have you list your, what people, what former contestants, And of course, because of this, the list was, as long as both my arms. So, Glenn took the opportunity in my audition to talk about, how great the alumni community is, and how everyone, how so many people feel like that they found the people, and it was a great conversation. Hasn't worked out for the call yet, but
you'll get your chance.
Sometime, I've had 2 auditions. Margie, you've had 6, so that's clearly, I mean, it's quite possible I could have a way to go with that. So I clearly need to up my audition game in any case. So, at this point, do either of you have any random questions for each other, or even for me? Seth, I just remembered. You're going on. You have a which network and show are you going on tomorrow?
Oh yeah, tomorrow afternoon at 5:50 Eastern Time, I will be on Fast Money on CNBC, talking about the economy, ironically, or coincidentally, I guess. So they're going to ask me some trivia questions about the stock market and the economy. So yeah, if you want to see me again on television, you can check that out tomorrow at 5:50 Eastern. Yeah, so that should be really fun. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. Yeah, break a leg with that.
Thank you.
So once again, are there any random questions between you guys, or even to me, if you'd like?
Yeah, actually, I was wondering, like, to the extent you remember, Margie, do you remember what the conversation was like at lunch that day? Because I remember both days that I was at lunch. It was very very friendly and very lively, but there was definitely a strain of one-upsmanship in a lot of the stories that were told, or there was definitely like a cognizance of the fact that we're going to have to, some of these people are going to be playing each other later. Do you remember what the lunch chat was like?
Didn't I have lunch with you?
No, I didn't eat lunch with you. I ate lunch in the commissary, but it was like I was by myself. I couldn't.
Oh, you were. Oh, because I was still sequestered.
Yeah, because I just lost. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I actually had lunch with Nate. And
okay.
So, I would say, I mean, one thing, and this has probably come up before, and maybe you talked about it last week, but I remember being picked up, on the bus at the hotel and getting in, and there were already some people who had been at the taping the day before, because I think the alternates are the same both days, who said to us, there's a juggernaut and he's won 10 games. And like my heart sank. And I remember then getting to the green room and the contestant coordinators identifying Seth as that juggernaut. And like I was afraid to talk to you. I was like in the morning I was like, oh my God. And then when they put us in the audience and they started randomly selecting for games, I was like, don't pick me, don't pick me, don't pick me. Because I wanted somebody else to be the giant slayer before I played. So I felt like the dynamic at lunch after our game was everybody was so relieved that I had slayed the giant and like gave them a level what they felt was a more level playing field for the rest of the day. It was like this tension had broken, and so people were like more congratulating me, like I had done something beneficial for them, even though I was going to be the returning champion. So it was kind of weird. So Nate and I were had lunch together, and then he was an LA area alternate. So I just wanted to know how that worked, and so we just chatted, just about those kinds of things. And I was with Randy also because I had been sitting next to her most of the day. So I was actually happy that she was in our game, and I was happy that we had a 3-woman game, because that seems to be a rare Jeopardy setup. So going into that game, I felt.
Yeah.
I think both 3 men and 3 women are both relatively rare from a Jeopardy setup. I think that from my experience, they tend to at least have some sort of gender diversity in most of the games. The vast majority of them, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think I played a game that was 3 men.
Can I? Well, actually, on that one, Seth.
Did I?
Yeah. You had your 12th win was against Joe. Was
Oh,
against
Joe and Ben. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Right. And Joe had a lot of problem with the buzzer too.
Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely. He he went the entire first segment without ringing in, and I presume he got the pep talk.
He did. But then I think in Double Jeopardy there was a clue where he said the answer without buzzing in. It was a question that I got right. And it was one, like, I was in the process of buzzing in and I heard him say it, and I thought, I was like, oh, did he beat me? And then Alex called on me. But yeah, I remember them giving him the pep talk.
That makes sense. I think anyone gets the pep talk at that point when they're visibly struggling on the buzzer. Obviously, you guys got, or Margie, you're after lunch, you guys got more time on the buzzer.
Right.
Actually, I think is one reason why we'll never see another run like Ken Jennings is simply because challengers now get so much extra practice time on the buzzer before they actually play the game. Before Ken's run, and even during the first, significant part of Ken's run, they, it was, I guess the buzzer time practice was significantly less than it is now, and obviously that if somebody gets on a really big buzzer roll, it becomes even more demoralizing and even more difficult for a challenger to win. And so they introduced that at the big, about halfway through Ken's run, they introduced it, and that made it a lot. It made it easier to beat him. It made it obviously much more difficult to go on a long run, and I think that's why the longest run since Ken has only been 20 games, is because they've instituted the extra time challenges.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. I
would say, yeah, it makes it easier for you to beat someone like Seth.
Well, Seth is a great champion, and it was I don't know if everybody, once their games are done, sticks around to see it all out, because I've seen other people say, oh yeah, my game was game 2 and I lost, so my friends and I went out to lunch somewhere in LA. They don't stick around, and I think it's great And I hope that you're not mad that I posted that picture of us from the green room, my selfie.
No, not at all.
That was just to like tell my friend, you know, my friends were like, "Yeah, you beat him," and I'm like, "No, he's a really nice guy."
I know that during the time I was there, a lot of people would leave after their game was over, but I definitely wanted to stay to see, and it was always my intention, whenever, I thought if I lose, yeah, when I lose, I'm definitely going to hang around because I want to just spend as much time in the studio here as I can, because it's cool to see. And it was, it was simultaneously like watching the last two games of our tape day from the audience. It was a little disappointing, especially because I knew the answer to each of the next two final Jeopardies.
Mm-hmm.
And that day was the only day where I knew all five. But it was also like interesting to watch it without the pressure of thinking like, okay, what's my strategy? What am I going to do? Like what's this very intense thing that you go through when you're on the show. So it was really fun to get to be an audience member for a little bit too, and to watch two really good games that afternoon as well.
So at this point, any other questions?
I have a baseball question. Do you now that the Jays swept the Rangers, does that change your prediction at all?
Does that oh yes, does that change my World Series prediction now that the Jays have swept the Rangers?
What is your prediction?
My prediction is Cubs over Blue Jays in the World Series. I really can't see. You know what? It would be nice for Blue Jays over Cubs, but yes, I'm a Blue Jays fan, but yes, I'm also a baseball fan at heart, and
it's time for the Cubs.
It really, it's honestly, it's really time for the Cubs, and I'll be happy if the Blue Jays if it happens to be the Cubs and the Blue Jays. I'll be happy if the Blue Jays win, but I also won't be disappointed because the other thing is it's going to be a Cubs Blue Jays World Series. You're going to have pretty much the entirety of the United States is going to cheer for the Chicago Cubs because how do you guys hate Canada anyway? And really,
that's not true. We might all be coming to live there soon, so depending on what happens in a couple of weeks.
Well, thankfully, I've been watching 538 rather religiously in terms of the, I like their, political guessing, their political predictions, but I also like, their sports predictions too. But so yeah, in any case, I've been taking a very close look at 538, and it's looking a little bit better, but obviously we can't. People can't, rest on their laurels at this point either. So,
yeah.
Regardless of the outcome you're hoping for, these next 4 weeks are going to be incredibly important. So in any case, are there any other questions before I delve too deeply into politics? Okay, so thank you guys for coming on to the live roundtable here on #Jeopardy Live panel tonight, and oh wow, okay, yeah, Jay Johnson is like he's cheering for the Blue Jays. Not gonna happen. #Jeopardy Live panel. #No Cubs. #Go Jays. Depending on who sees that might not be a. I'm friends with a number of Cubs fans, and so they may not enjoy that tweet. But Okay, so yes, the next episode of Hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel is going to be taping at some point in the middle of next week. I have dropped back to a 2-episode per 3 week for the foreseeable future, but I will still continue to put these episodes out. So once again, thanks for either watching the video on YouTube or either listening to the audio on either iTunes or Google Play Music or via the website. So for all of us here at the JeopardyFan.com and Hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel, thanks for tuning in. Have an excellent evening.
Thanks. Good night.
Thanks.